The Harran virus was featured within the game Dying Light and exists within and causes mass devastation within the Harran quarantine zone. The virus caused its infected human hosts to become extremely dangerous, mutated creatures capable of spreading the virus further through the populace of humans. The Harran virus is actually not a completely new form of disease encountered by humanity, and is instead apparently related to the rabies virus, and even possibly a break-off species from that pathogen. The Harran virus is contracted through bodily fluids, transferred into a potential host's body from an infected body. The virus itself is inherently light intolerant, and subjection to UV radiation or ultraviolet radiation will result in the virus being destroyed. This means that contact with direct sunlight or UV outside a host's body or on a surface will result in the virus's death. This causes the host of the virus to become mostly nocturnal. Initially, the hosts that have only recently been infected can walk freely without consequence in the daylight. However, as time goes on, the mutations cause the virus to increase rapidly within the body, and eventually also makes the host subject to this UV sensitivity. The exact origin of the Harran virus is not certain. It is never actually fully explored, but there is probably two main avenues for its original introduction into the city of Harran, located most likely somewhere in Turkey. One more far-flung theory comes from the fact that about the same time as the outbreak occurred within Harran, a meteorite impacted the city. This led to a French conspiracy theorist named David within the game, present in the city at the time, deducing that the virus could have some sort of cosmic origins, either being a random or accidentally occurring alien pathogen, or purposely an alien attack on Earth utilizing a deadly bioweapon. However, the second is more likely in the form of the explanation that this is a genetically engineered or cultured strain of the rabies virus developed by the government of the area that was accidentally able to get out. The fact is hinted to actually in the DLC for the original game titled The Following, where a vision from a character known as the Mother shows the military being somehow involved in the original outbreak. Transmission occurs, as previously stated, by bodily fluid exchange from an infected to the internal body, namely the bloodstream of a potential host. The virus is supposed to replicate within infected saliva and blood, as this is the primary method of transmission. This is coupled with the fact that after becoming infected, the hosts begin to feel violent tendencies while seeing a decrease in higher order thinking and cognitive abilities, basically zombifying most of the first stages of the infection. After this rage and simple nature kicks in, the infected become hostile towards any non-infected human, as it would appear that they have in some way an ability to distinguish between infected and non-infected hosts. Their primitive violent drive takes them to viciously attack non-infected, and a trait that helps to spread the virus, as when the infected attack, their main motive of offense is biting, which itself passes the virus through the saliva and blood directly into the non-infected host's bloodstream. Biting is the main form of transmission, however, contaminated blood transfusion and deep wounds that can get the infected's blood or saliva in it can also cause the host to contract the disease. If the virus enters the body through a limb, it is possible to halt its advance through the bloodstream by amputating that infected limb, effectively saving the person's life. Aside from just making the host more aggressive, it also heightens the fight or flight response. The host can either become hyperactive and attack a potential threat, or can rapidly evade the threat. Either way, the later stage of the infection will do so with great effort, no matter which avenue they wish to take. There are also specific types of infected that include the virals, biters, toads, bombers, goons, demolisher, screamers, bolters, volatiles, and night hunters. Almost every type of infected prefer the fight response with the exception of the bolters and the screamer, and under some other circumstances even the virals. Once a host has become infected with the Harran virus, an onset of periodic seizures, fatigue, drowsiness, hallucinations, and blurred vision occurs over the time it takes for the infection to take hold. The time it does take can vary from hours to days in some cases. As the time goes on, the virus begins to fully take over the brain function of the host. First of all, the infected become very aggressive towards others, while still retaining a small amount of cognition function or humanity. The first stage is known as a viral, and in this stage, if the infected is threatened, it can actually beg for mercy. If the threat does then grant the viral mercy, it can either run off or it will resume its attack. After the infection progresses, the infected reaches a stage known as the biter, that is in all sense of the word zombified. Biters are aggressive, slow infected that will lash out and try and bite a non-infected in order to spread the virus. This stage is met with the skin of the infected becoming discolored and sometimes appears like it is rotting from malnourishment. That is most likely a result of the virus attacking the neurological systems of the infected host, leading to the host becoming more and more animalistic as time goes on, losing their humanity and having their aggression raise along with their mutations. For some other reason, after the biter stage, the host body begins to suffer through a series of strange mutations that seem to evolve the host randomly into one of many other various stages of infection, such as the toad, the bomber, the goon, the demolisher, screamer, or bolter. What determines what type of infected the host will become is not known. However, it could be a couple of things. It could be something genetic with the host. It could be that the virus carries multiple genetic mutagen RNA strands, giving it the ability to cause different results randomly across different hosts. Now, because the virus and its infected host types are both subject to UV damage by direct contact with this form of radiation, the infected prefer to spend most of their time within dark areas, and usually caves, tunnels, and other such dark underground areas, in order to avoid the sunlight and UV radiation that it carries. In some unknown process, whilst underground, if the infected begin to group up and revisit this same area often, the area will begin to grow, for some unknown reason, a biomass that appears like a fleshy hive structure that begins to grow and spread out throughout the cavernous area until it reaches an area that is subjected to UV exposure. How this fleshy biomass is generated is not known. However, we do know that if a human host is brought to this hive and implanted within it, the hive will grow over them and slowly begin to metamorphosize their body into one of two types of infected, the volatile or the night hunter. This appears to be the only way that these two unique infected types can be generated. The hive can only really be destroyed if it is put in direct contact with a source of UV radiation, as any other attack will damage the hive, but it will just simply regrow. Now, during the initial infection of a host, a substance known as antizin can be administered to delay symptoms. Antizin is a strong viral suppressant and can be administered, which dramatically slows the rate of complete infection and delays the onset of many of the first symptoms. However, this method does not fully cure the disease, it only prevents it for a time. Despite the virus's devastating effects, it appears that it may be able to be cured. It has been shown that the virus can be cured when put into contact with a polio virus. This is somehow able to kill the virus and even return mutated forms of the infected slowly back to human form. The methods and reasons for this are unclear, and the end process results in you exchanging one deadly pathogenic virus for another, so it's sort of just a trade out and not a real win-win. The Harran virus is named so because its first and only outbreak occurred within the city of Harran, soon after the military were able to quickly and effectively quarantine the area, as they had set up a large wall around the city equipped with powerful UV lighting systems that deterred and killed any infected that came too close, as well as keeping people in and the biters from stumbling away. But what other videos would you guys like to see? If you have any ideas or have any questions you would like answered, please meet me down in the comments section. If you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and go check out Attack Lore and Explained on Twitter and Discord. If you would like to support me and the channel's content, as well as get access to behind the scenes and early content and other rewards, you can become a patron. I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.